Hi, good evening. This work session of the School Board of Osseo Area Schools is being held in the forum room of the Educational Service Center on Tuesday, August 18th, 2026. The work session is being audio recorded. The recording will be made available on the district website within 2 business days after the work session is ended. With regard to the audio recording, our communication staff has asked that we share a friendly reminder that side conversations during the work session are picked up by the recorder and can affect sound quality. Also, conversations during transitions between agenda items are on the recording as well. The intent of the school board work session is to allow for school board discussion of topics. Work sessions do not include an opportunity for audience members to address the board. To acknowledge attendance this evening, I'll ask that all present at the table state their name, starting with the person to the left.
Tanya Prince, board member.
Erica Foster, board member.
Keith Tate, school board member.
Kava Lola, Executive Director of Community Relations.
Steve Flisk, Assistant Superintendent.
Yvonne Schwartz-Lind, Executive Director of HR.
Amy Tollefson, Assistant Superintendent.
Brian Severson Hall, Executive Director of Community Engagement.
Anthony Pernis, Executive Director of Technology.
Jason Bodie, Assistant Superintendent.
Sarah Mitchell, School Board Member.
Kelsey Dawson, School Board Member.
Amy Moore, General Counsel.
Kim Hines, Superintendent.
And I, Thomas Brooks, school board member and present. The purpose of school board work sessions is to build trust and teamwork, to exchange information, and when applicable, to provide direction in order to facilitate efficient and effective decision-making at regular board meetings. Dr. Heil, will you please share your check-in?
Thank you. Thank you, Vice Chair Brooks, Chair Prince, and school board members. Our first item this evening will be on extracurricular activities. I do want to share with the board, we've pulled some additional items for you in your red folder. And in your red folder, it will contain different activities that our high schools have in regards to sports, in regards to club, as well as middle school. So we just want to make sure we have that information you have to be able to observe. So this evening, we're going to have Brian Severson Hall, who's the Executive Director of Community Engagement, and along with Mr. Severson Hall, we have Assistant Superintendent Amy Tollefson, and then the brains in the room assisting us if needed is Keely Sorensen, our lead activities coordinator. So, Keith?
Yeah. All right. Well, good evening, everyone. We'll just get right into it, and Carrie Cave is also going to jump in if needed too. So we each needed a phone a friend, so we're going to do that. But we're gonna do our best in the amount of time that we have to give a little bit of the landscape of after school in general in our community, but also then hone in a little bit on specifically elementary and some middle school opportunities that we do, as well as some high school activities. And we have it in one of the slides in the future, but just a reminder, we have a work session dedicated to athletics and activities fees in January. So we didn't give as much time to that on this one, but that will also be a work session in January. So after thinking about out of school time or after school, creating pathways to belonging, exploration, and connection. So we know that students spend a lot of time in school, but they spend a significant amount of their time not in school, right? And so on this slide, I talk a little bit why they matter. When I think about out of school time, I think about providing positive places, caring people, and creative opportunities for youth in their non-school hours. So that's kind of how I frame thinking about what is offered for students in their non-school hours. So it serves a lot of purposes. Safety and supervision certainly is one of them. Belonging, both belonging with their peers, but also with trusted adults. A lot of times you'll see after-school programs offering exploratory or skill development courses for youth. Sometimes those are called sports samplers. Sometimes they're speech or drama or dance, giving students a chance to try something new, connects them to the school, and it connects them to their community. And these are kind of our broader ones before we get to some of our specific school-based things. So there's a wide network that makes after school happen, right? We could talk a long time about that if we wanted to. We've got parks and recs, we've got boys and girls clubs, YMCAs. Minnesota, I think most of you are aware of this, most states do not have community education in the country. There's only about 3 states that do. So when you go to like the National After School Association, it's a way different conversation, right? Actually, the military is one of the biggest providers of after school programming in this country. right? Because they provide it for all their service members and their families. So it's way different depending on where you're at. But in our community, we listed some of the groups that do these, provide these opportunities. Certainly in the Osseo Area School District, youth athletic associations play a big part in opportunities for students in their non-school hours. Scouting, 4-H, faith-based programs, all of those things. So multiple ways for kids to participate. Good news is there's opportunities at all age levels. If I was to do my own personal op-ed, I think elementary typically has the most opportunities. High school certainly bumps up their opportunities that you'll see in a little bit. In middle school can sometimes be on the tail end of that, but you'll see in our presentation our community ed targeted services programming for middle school students, and certainly we're excited about the Wood in Brooklyn Park, their teen center that they just opened. So all different groups kind of contribute to making this be successful. We think there's different benefits for various groups. Certainly I already talked about students, families, programs like Kid Stop. That's a driver for working families, right? That's specifically set up to support families who are working and need a place for their young person to be when school is not in session. And we also think that communities and schools benefit from students being involved with stronger student engagement. I believe most recent national studies, kids who participate in after-school programs and activities typically attend school at a 5% higher rate than those who don't, right? Because there's a connection right there, right? I don't want to mess up my school day and wreck my chance of being on the soccer team, or name whatever it is that you're participating in. And we certainly build strong community partnerships during the non-school hours. You saw that yesterday at Aspen Ridge with our partnership with the OMGBA, right? That's just one community example. Now we're going to hone in onto what's going on in Osseo area schools. So when I think about the care and supervision aspect of after school, that's where you see Kid Stop, 4-Star. Certainly you heard all about our summer programs. We were proud again this summer to serve over 6,000 students in our summer programs. Summer programs are still going, by the way. They end on Friday. Okay, so.
Making you come in and.
Well, we'll take those requests after. And then enrichment and exploration. Certainly there's community ed classes. We'll talk about targeted services, summer learning camps and clubs. Clubs during the school year happen too. And then I think these connection and leadership, I think service opportunities, etc. So I think these three categories are a nice way to think about after school as a whole. I made some assumptions that folks like after school programs and support them, so I didn't spend a ton of time on that, but I think it's good to be grounded in why we do it. Some of our programs are free and eligibility based. Some have fees attached to them, right? And there's a whole range across this spectrum. So some of our free and eligibility based programs, Camp Rocks Academic Adventures is free, Targeted Services is free, Credit Recovery, ESY Extended School Year, taking your ACT test. Some of these programs, we'll touch on funding a little bit. Some of these programs are state funded, right? And then there's eligibility requirements to be able to participate in them. And I just did a smattering of different programs with different fees. So Kid Stop School Year ranges from 15 to 23 per session, depending on early start school, late start school, etc. $46 daily. And those rates vary by schedule and service level. Elementary enrichment can be anywhere from $10 to $279. Now that's based on dosage. A more expensive class might be a class that takes place over 8 weeks and you have 16 sessions. And a $10 class might be a one-time session only. And also school clubs and student groups vary, and we'll talk about athletics as well. So there's really kind of a range. Some of it depends on if it's government funded or if it's not, right? And on the community ed side, Only 30% of our revenue is provided by state or federal government. The other 70% is fee-based, as it is a self-funded fee. We do offer a variety of scholarships and ways to work alongside parents if they need support. Certainly on the Kids Stop side, we use the Child Care Assistance Program, help parents out, work their way through that. And there's a wide range of how scholarships work. We're not spending a ton of time on that, but that might be part of our pause and reflect as well. So for instance, in youth enrichment, if families ask, they have an opportunity of up to $200 per kid per year if they want assistance, right? So that's just one example. So let's talk about what we offer and kind of what participation looked like this past year. So targeted services, you can see in the middle schools, we offered targeted services at Brookwood Middle, Osseo Middle, Maple Grove Middle, and Northview Middle. Sometimes some of these numbers can be duplicate count because typically targeted services is offered by a class. So I might sign up for a class in the spring, I might sign up for a class in the fall. I don't have the exact enrollment numbers at each of the schools off the top of my head, but Northview Middle is probably our most popular middle school community ed targeted services program. You can see this summer, we had Game On at Brooklyn Middle and Northview Middle. And we had the OMG program at Maple Grove Middle and Osseo Middle. And we had Carey Camp Rocks was Zanewood,
Elm Creek.
Rice Lake, Zanewood, and Elm Creek last year. So sometimes in the summer, we aren't able to do it as perfectly as this year because you had Zanewood on the east side. You had an east side, west side, and middle, but it really is depending on construction when we consolidate programs in the summer. So, but the school years are representative of the actual schools. And you can see our targeted services program. We offer that at Edenbrook, Parkbrook, Birch Grove, Fair Oaks, Palmer Lake, and Oakview. And you know that Parkbrook's a duplicate count, right? Because that's more kids than actually go there. So Parkbrook is, just like Northview is probably our most popular community ed targeted services program, Parkbrook is our most popular community ed targeted services program. Lots of kids participate in before and after school offerings at Parkbrook. Here's some youth enrichment numbers from last year. You can see all the sites that we're at, and I'm happy again this fall that we'll be at 16 of our 17 elementaries. We'll have youth enrichment offerings once again this year. And this sounds weird, but Parkbrook's our only site that didn't offer them last year, but that's because they didn't think they needed both because they have such high participation in community ed targeted services. So, but everyone else wants at least a smattering of youth enrichment classes. You can see participation varies. One thing that I didn't mention about, well, all of these programs are choice-based, right? You don't have to attend any of these programs. That's one thing that's probably unique about after school and out of school time programming is they are, parents sign up. I do like to say the older kids get that they vote with their feet, right? So some kids really ask their parents to be participants and others kind of say, I don't want to do that anymore. But that's why you even see things like Game On and OMG. We name things differently. We work with kids to come up with the names for their summer programs when they hit middle school. We might offer them in different dosages. You know, I might not want to get to Game On at 6:45 like I used to have to for Kids Stop, right? I might rather ride my bike and start today at 9:30 or something like that, right? So we just vary it that way. And you can see this summer, we did our mini camps. We had them all located at Rice Lake. Very successful mini camps this summer with over 2,300 kids participating. So those are some of our youth enrichment and targeted services that are offered through community education. And these are, what do you call those, real-time numbers. for Kid Stop for next year. You can see where we're going to be at. Aspen Ridge is on there for the first time. We've got 63 kids enrolled at Aspen Ridge. You can see the numbers so far. At Kid Stop, just shy of 1,300 contracts to date so far this year. I'm going to say this one publicly, even though it hasn't happened yet. I'm nervous to put it on there, but we almost pulled off a Zanewood hub site for this school year. We're working with Brooklyn Park and Rec to add another hub on the east side for Kid Stop after school programming. We currently have one at Edinbrook, because any school that's not listed on here, we were unable to get more than 15 kids to register for that program, so then we create a hub. But one of the things we're excited about with the Wood coming online this school year is to add a hub, because then therefore what we'll have is a hub for early start schools to combine at and a hub for late start schools to combine at, if that makes some sense, right? Because right now, unfortunately, the hub at Edinbrook covers for kids that are both going to and from early start or to and from late start. So that staggers the busing, all sorts of things. But overall, I think having two hubs is going to be a good switch for us. That was a lot of quick numbers at you, but I wanted you to at least see where we offer programs throughout the district and what level of participation we get, kind of the cost range of what takes place. I'm, of course, a little bit biased, but I think a lot of our programs are pretty reasonable. Sometimes stats feels like you can manipulate stats, but even when I think about Kid Stop at $46 a day, you often hear about how expensive childcare is, and it is, it's real money, but that's also $4.60 an hour is another way to look at it. And I'm only dividing the day by 10 hours. Kid Stop's actually open 12 hours a day, right? So for some of these programs, the per hour cost is a really pretty good deal, but it still adds up, right? That's real dollars for families. And just a little bit on this one before we go to high school. We get a lot of feedback from our participants and from our families. They define things differently, why they like it. Scholars are more likely to participate when they feel physically and emotionally safe, have a trusted adult, have great experiences, have voice and choice. We often talk about in after-school programs, we do choice-based curriculum. So you don't have to go to the gym from 3:30 to 3:45 and then to the art room from 3:45 to 4. We offer a smattering of activities throughout the session, and children are free to make choices, right, and go back and forth. Some kids, you try to say, let's leave the gym. You've been here 2 hours, let's go and pick another choice. But if they're not experiencing an engaging place, they're not going to come back. And they're going to tell their parents they don't like it, and they're going to tell you they don't like it, or vice versa. They're going to say, I love it, and want to come more often. Real quickly, touched upon it. We have family and student fees. General community ed supports offset some of the cost of some of the programs. Some of our programs we get grants or time-limited funding. It's been a long time now, but for a while, we had a wonderful number of years where we got the 21st Century Learning grants, and those were eliminated, right? So sometimes federal or state funding goes away. We had a good 9-year run there in the last 3 years. I think we were getting over $303,000 a year to support those programs. So there is a legislative component to some of these programs and what you do get supported. And we do get some donations and sponsorships. Of course, major costs are staff wages, facility use, food, etc. I wanted to kind of talk about this for a second. Access depends on more than whether a program exists, right? Because just because a program exists doesn't automatically mean people can participate. That's why you're always balancing how much you charge. A lot of our after-school programs require parents to pick up the kids at the end of the day, right? So transportation's a barrier. Even if the program's offered, that could be a barrier to participate. Location and schedule don't work with every family. I think we've done a couple things to try to get people more aware of Where we do offer programs, we have site liaisons at some of our schools to try to connect students to after-school programs. I do think our new language access initiative is going to help as well. I think that's a positive thing that the school district's doing as a whole. So I'm going to turn it over to Amy.
All right. So we wanted to just give a little bit of an overview around really starting with some opportunities and then also just looking at some participation, some real foundational information. And I think about high schools and our senior highs as being a place that never sleep. Because as you can see, you have lots of information in your folders about the wide variety. And so even when this question emerged, it's kind of hard to really wrap your brains around how to make sense of it because of just the complexity of all the different things that Brian has shared, and then just the wide variety of different kinds of opportunities at the high school level as well. So really focusing around opportunity and then participation.
Oh, thank you.
All right, so if we just start to break down some of the different opportunities at all of our high schools, there are some similarities and then it gets to be just a little bit more choice-based depending on interest. And also at high schools we have clubs, which some of them are student-run based on interest. So if I happen to want to create some kind of an outdoor club, I would go and talk to my activity coordinator and say, you know, let's start this club, and there you go, let's start a club. So there, I'm not going to read through this, but you can really see a wide variety of opportunities from athletic participation through different clubs like music, choir. We have things like robotics and Model UN. We have clubs and sports, fall, winter, and spring, and there's still lots of activity happening in summer times for different practices. We have adapted athletics, which is formally through the Minnesota State High School League, but then a few of the high schools also have a unified club, which is just activities that take place in partnership between student receiving special education services and general education students. And most of the high school athletics are open to students in grades 7 through 12. So you can kind of see some of the nuances between what is offered at each of, more broadly between the schools. And in your folders, you have some more specific lists of what's offered between each school. So here's just some very basic participation numbers, and these can be duplicates. So if I am an athlete in 2 sports, then I would be counted as 2 in this particular count. This also helps to delineate, a question around opportunities for middle school students. So at the high school level, sports are available 7 through 12, and students grades 7 through 12. So here we see students in middle school that participate in athletics at the senior high. Again, here's just some additional participation numbers when you look at the total number of students. Again, remember that number at Maple Grove Senior High, for example, has a total of 1,977 students. That could be, me participating 2 times, for example, if I'm a double sport or a triple sport athlete. But that breaks it down by race. So I'm not going to obviously read through all those numbers, but you can just get a little bit of an understanding of what that looks like at each one of our schools. We know there's some questions that are emerging just around financial access and costs. So right now it is $190 for each individual to participate in a sport. And if I am a 3-sport athlete, then that 3rd sport is free. And just for reference, we had to go back and think about how long we've had that fee in existence, and it really hasn't changed for about 9 to 10 years when we went back and tried to think about when that time was. And that change that happened was only $10. So it used to be $180, and then it was raised approximately 9 to 10 years ago to $190. So, at that time, obviously, that was maybe a little bit of a bigger fee, but in today's dollars, that is not a significant increase, and it's stayed, and that's been our fee for the last 9 to 10 years. In comparison, which 2 of our high schools participate in the Northwest Suburban Conference, and that is 13 other districts. And that, the participation fee ranges that those districts require range from $100 to $440. So again, in our future work session, that's something that we can certainly share out, similar to some charts that you have, because we have access to that information, but it is really varied across the different districts. And then we'll provide more information again in January. So we want to just give an opportunity for the pause and ponder, or pause and process, which you're all familiar with, and just created some questions, because I know that's been valuable time for you just to talk about all the information that you've heard up to this point. So is 5 minutes enough, or would you like more time to talk amongst yourselves? 10 minutes?
We can probably just jump into it,
You want to?
because we're limited on time.
Okay.
But before we jump in, I know this is a topic that was a long time coming. And I know Director Dawson had a big part in making sure that this made it on a work session agenda. So I wanted to, did you have anything that you wanted to add to get us started?
Of course I do. Well, first I just wrote some things down. I want to thank Amy and Brian, because, you know, we met and kind of talked through, I mean, there was a lot of things, you know.
Yeah.
This can cover a lot of different areas in our district, with our community partners, with our cities, and I know that we're having a future session specifically on athletics coming up, but I just, you know, I asked for this work session because I'm very, very passionate about this. And I believe that our extracurricular activities and enrichments are not extras. You know, I really believe they are absolutely part of the full educational experience. And I have 4 kids myself, and a lot of times I think through that lens, and I know what participating in activities has done for them. I even look at my daughter, who's a senior in college at Howard, and like, she was okay academically, but because she had so many opportunities to participate, it just kind of put her to that next level. But I also know, having 4 kids, like, there's a lot of barriers, you know, and with cost and access, and I know our district does so much to really ensure that everyone has access, and I really believe that if we anchor in and partner with, you know, we've done joint work session with the city of Brooklyn Park and Mayor Winston, and I would love to continue that with our other cities, to really have this as a forefront, because I think about, like, I look at Cindy sitting there with Minnesota Chill, my son participates with that program, and it's just you just see how important these community partnerships are. And I think at a time when we're looking at technology, we're looking at all these things, we also have to make sure we are positioning our families, caregivers, and our students with resources and opportunities to engage, you know, whether that's after school, whether that's in the summer, and I think there's a lot of disparities there that we can unearth and we can kind of see in the numbers. And then the other thing that just struck me is, you know, like, you post things on your social media, and I had posted about this, asked this question about, like, you know, what do people think, and I just, like, the amount of responses I received was just really, was awesome. Like, all the feedback, all the stories, all the experiences, all the barriers were named. You know, people were like, what about archery? What about this? And so you know, that's what is in your packet. I just, like, compiled the list of themes that I heard. And, you know, when I think about, I think my hope for today is just, like, what you guys did, provide kind of the ground, like, the foundational kind of piece of it. And I think as a board, continue to think about, like, how can we move some things forward in a way to kind of get some more feedback. And I know I talked to Chair Prince and Vice Chair Brooks about it, even, like, looking at listening sessions this fall. Like, do we have one that's really focused on our activities and, like, what we're doing, and we hear that feedback. And like I mentioned, like, really partnering with our cities more to kind of better understand in that capacity, what are their goals, what are they working on, like, how do we really support our youth and our young people, and expand our opportunities for all of our students. So I know Chair Brooks is like, okay, you're limited in your questions, so I will leave it there, but I'm super excited about this topic, and I just love the energy that I can just kind of sense that I think our community is really looking forward to looking at this. I will say, even, for example, like, middle school sports, you know, I think I look at that topic, and I remember my first term, we talked about that, and I know I think it was rid of it just because of some financial reasons. But I also think there might be some opportunity there, something to look at in the future as well. So.
Thanks, Kelsey.
Yeah, so, like Director Dawson just said, so before we, everyone else jumps in, 35 minutes is not a lot to absorb everything that was shared today, or dive deep into any particular topic. And so I'm hoping that as you all are thinking about your questions and your feedback for staff, that you are also able to pinpoint some topics that you'd like to dive deeper on in future work sessions. So some follow-up topics would be ideal so we can continue this conversation. But with that said, let's go first.
I just have a question. I don't know if you can touch on this or get back to us, but talking to some of the high school coaches in the district, we're saying one of the challenges is finding really good qualified coaches. Are there a lot of gaps right now just with the programs we have, finding enough staff and coaches? Just if you can address that briefly.
You might have Keely come over.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
It depends, I would say. So it depends on what activity are we talking about, what's relevant in the communities that we're serving in. At the time, I can give a story right now. We started volleyball 2 days ago, and we hired 2 ninth grade volleyball coaches today. And we've been asking all summer. We've been reaching out to club organizations. We've been posting on LinkedIn, Facebook, putting it everywhere. So it depends. Volleyball is one right now that's been difficult, but it really depends on the climate of the sport and where it's at in our state or even in our communities. Is how I would answer that right now. So we do run into it, not in everything, but we do see it.
Like, can you touch on right now how many open spots? I mean, are these positions we need to fill in the district? I'm just
I would
curious as
say
we have so many wonderful programs that I love. You know, Kelsey's heart to add, but it's just interesting as diving into this more and researching. Like, this is a challenge finding good coaches. We want to have qualified coaches, and yeah. So.
I would say right now, open positions for our current fall openings are minuscule. There are a couple, I think, but we're filling those at this point, so we're getting in a good spot. We're turning to look at what does winter and spring look at right now. I'll touch on there's been a lot of work done with human resources and what we're doing to make sure when we get the people in the door and we get our coaches in the door, what training are we giving them and how are we walking alongside them to make sure they have the skills to be prepared and ready to step into that space. Because sometimes we do get someone that hasn't coached high school before, but maybe has coached club or coached youth level. And how do we bring them along? So there's a lot of work there too. I wouldn't say we're in a space right now of like dire need or freaking out. We're making it happen, and here and there when there's an issue, we problem solve together and figure it out. But there are instances where people are busy and there's a lot on their plates, right? So picking up an extra thing can be hard sometimes, even though our heart might be in it.
And that's one thing real quickly that we didn't, this started out as 40 slides and we called it to 23 because of how much time we had.
We know Thomas is.
Yeah, I see you looked at me like this. But to Keely's point, you know, even targeted services, right? A targeted service class only runs if a licensed teacher is willing to work outside of their normal school day and work after school, because that's one of the requirements, right? So we didn't talk about the kind of internal, I know we're talking about some external barriers, but there's also internal barriers based on the requirements of different programs, right? So these, you know, hundreds of classes that you see are the result of people working beyond their duty day and taking a second job part-time to offer after-school classes. So, you know, we're so grateful to all of our after-school facilitators and our teachers who teach after-school classes for us. It's great. They wouldn't happen without that, and I do understand they get paid, but you've already worked an 8 to 10 hour day, and now you're doing 2 more hours for an after-school club twice a week, right? So that's a part of our own, what we do, a lot of work to say why we think it's important and that we would love you to help us out. You might have an area of interest that you like to do. So thanks for letting me at least add one of the slides we eliminated about how we go about getting people to work beyond their normal workday.
I'd be curious to hear what other internal barriers there are, just because you guys are experts on the inside and we can kind of see most of the outside barriers. That would be something I'd be curious about. The two things that I noticed were just the participation level is pretty amazing. And then just the mix of clubs. And I'm pretty sure these are the student brainstormed and then they lead it. So that's amazing.
The high
Right?
school
Is that what
ones.
this is? The high school ones?
Some of them are, I'm talking about the list, some of them are led by, like advisors.
Yeah.
And then some of them are student-led
Okay.
clubs, so they're kind of all mixed.
And they're very unique. Like there's a lot of unique ones. I read Cyber Fun, and I'm like, as a 40-year-old woman, I thought something different. So I was like, oh wait, no, they're probably weaving. Okay. So that one was good, but it's really cool to see their different interests come out, and that they vary across the schools as they should, based on who's attending our schools. So I'm
It's
just.
weaving.
Thank you. It took me a few minutes, but I got there. But I'm just really impressed and thankful for the teachers that show up and are willing to supervise these, and just the opportunities we're giving our kids. These weren't available when I was a student, so this is amazing. And just even the sports, looking at how well represented we are across all the schools. That a lot of the times that district-wide box is checked, or it's 2 of the 3 schools. And these are super unique too, like clay target shooting, and I know somebody that does fishing, and like it's just insane the offerings that we have. So those were the 2 things that stood out to me, and just as I've become a parent of older children, been able to see. So, and I know we're talking about this later, but the fee comparison, because I did look it up. My coworker was like, "Oh, you guys pay a lot for your fees. Just wait." And I'm like, "Are you sure?" And he's like, "No, it cannot be that low." And I'm like, "It's that low." So it is, and I know that's a topic for later, and that's a neutral comment. I have no up or down on that, but that was an interesting note.
So for me, what struck me was the comment about that the more likely a student is to participate in something after school, like how much it impacts attendance and overall kind of engagement in school. And I know we've talked about that through Brooklyn Bridge Alliance for Youth and through our COVID conversations. And so to me, I think it's really like ensuring that we've got good high participation by students after school. With that, I had one question. With the transportation, are the activity buses every day, or are they on a reduced schedule? Because I know some districts have, with cuts, taken to reduced. That's up.
They are Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday right now.
At all sites?
All high schools and then middle schools have them as well.
Is that, so that's, because it's like, that's the drop off after the activity? Okay.
Yeah, so 4:45 pickup at the high schools, middle schools a little bit earlier.
Okay, thank you.
When did that, do we know when that changed? You guys a follow
It's
up.
been like that for the majority of my time.
Yeah, it's been a while. My daughter, it was like that for her,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
She's been out for,
Yeah, I know because we were at a recent Brooklyn Park City engagement, and the youth from B-Bay were there, and transportation came up. And I know Kenneman's down only 2 days a week, I believe, so that's a big one. And they actually had some really creative ideas about meeting that need through community or community partnerships, so that's a big one. But ultimately, like, you know, if it'd be interesting to understand, I know we're doing some really great barrier work with leaders, so understanding if there's barriers to at maximizing the number of kids that are staying after school. I know when we had our work session at BMS, like, it was just amazing, like how exciting was how many kids were after school in activities. So I think to me it's maximizing that after school participation in something, and if that's on site or if that's near site, or I know Parkbrook's amazing, and that struck me with that targeted services and that choice around no youth enrichment, because like the number of outside groups that come there, like Girls on the Run, like all this is like I have to believe like every single kid is doing something there. Yeah, it's amazing. So that helps me just understand, like looking at youth enrichment numbers and why we have different things at different places. But again, to me, it's maximizing the number of kids that can participate, because it ties to everything else so much. And then lastly, I'll just, from a personal point of view, experiencing sports for the first time this fall with my son, like I really appreciated 2 things. One, like at least at Park Center, like we got an email as parents, and it said like, this is everything you can participate in. Here's the link. Here's the person. And like coming down to like the 3 C's, like is that a consistent experience for everybody? to kind of have that high touch, it was very meaningful because it was so easy. It could just get him signed up, and he's like, I want to do this and do that. And then like the first session with the coaches, and I don't know if this is consistent across all, but the coaches really emphasize attendance and grades, and that we're looking it up, we're watching, we're going to talk to you if this is becoming a problem. And I think that's just another avenue with those strong mentors and coaches and following through on that. So I'd love to kind of understand if that's consistent and kind of
Yes,
coaches.
we've worked on that.
Yeah, that it was really good. I know there's been like a lot of new coach training too, so that I thought was really meaningful for my personal experience. So
And
that's what I got
to
for
give a
now.
compliment to Keely, she's Parks in her, so.
Yeah, I just emailed like, I don't know how to do this. Where do I need to go? Email back. Yeah, it was good.
And Erica, to your like one internal thing that I just thought of was how we talk about it. Like, I'm talking about it as targeted I'm talking about it how the funding stream comes through.
Yeah.
But really, when we're talking to families and youth, it's what are the opportunities? They don't care. Anime at Brooklyn Middle School is offered through targeted services. They just want to know what's offered after school, right? So I think some of it, to Tanya's point, that's a communication thing. How do we get consistent on even how we talk about this broad concept of out of school time and opportunities to parents and to students? So that made me think of that when you asked that question.
And one of the exciting things here is Northview, because they have a new dance studio and they also have inside turf. And you can just see on the middle school list how many dance clubs that they have now, so how well it's used and, yeah.
And that struck me as well, the percent of students, like I think our mindset is because in our day and age, like you always did a sport every single season. Like that's not how it is anymore. Like kids, not every kid wants to be in a sport. A lot of the kids are choosing, like you said, like women's dance, sport club. They're not doing the traditional things we expected. So I think we have to be sure that we're always bringing a lens to what our students and our diverse communities are asking for, which I think we've done, like with the dance and with the turf. And sometimes we put these external perspectives on that aren't quite matched to what our kids need today. So it's always a good reminder that it's coming back to student choice and voice. And even think, like I agree, like more continue to talk with our cities. It's only been about 6 years since we built the dome with Brooklyn Park. That was huge, and that has increased opportunities. So continuing those partnerships and it being based on feedback from our families, which we do, and from our community members, which we've engaged in, is key. So all right, I'll stop now.
Keith, is there anything?
Just one, I think, quick question. So I'm looking kind of at the participation in athletics, and the middle school is kind of about half of what the high school is, like, per grade level. Do we understand why that is?
It's a playing up.
I'm gonna think of where it's coming through. That's okay. I think being more intentional about, we're really trying to be more intentional about how do you engage with your middle school. So for us, Brooklyn Middle and Northview, how are we building communication and partnerships with even the adults in the spaces to make sure the communication's getting out. I think there is a lot that people don't know necessarily in those areas, and I think it's hard because it's 7th through 12th, and that can also be a dynamic that 7th and 8th graders aren't quite ready for. So I think it's nuanced. There's multiple aspects there, but I think ultimately it comes down to not necessarily being right in the building with the majority of the other students and trying to have to figure out what that pathway looks like.
Okay.
Keely, if I could add to that too, I think it adds so much identity as you're growing into high school together. Like there's a sense of belonging and identity when you're headed towards a team sport together and towards high school, like 7th and 8th grade, you're building into that. So I think that's a really cool advantage of allowing our middle schoolers to try out.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question? But I think our district does a great job with that. I've had my middle school kids participate in high school sports, but it depends what capacity of the high school sport. And I know with my daughter, wanted to do track. She's in middle school, and but couldn't because it was full. Which is totally, that's great. I understand that. I think for a follow-up though, I would be interested to know what other districts have middle school sports. And I would like to kind of have a better understanding of it.
And again, for time, we just gave you athletics, we didn't give you activities.
Oh, boy.
We didn't tell you band, we didn't tell you theater,
Oh,
we
yeah.
didn't tell you music, we didn't, so those are out of school time,
Mm.
right? It's not just athletics, it's activities is really what we're talking about. So we just gave you one of the out of school time
And that's work
opportunities for high
sessions.
schoolers.
Should we just promise you that?
But thank you all for your questions and we'll work with you on following up on some of these things that are of interest, so we appreciate the time.
A couple things, just from me, I'll
Yeah.
keep it short because we are over. So there is a gap with our sixth graders in this. I know. So I think for me, sixth grade is, middle school is obviously a time where we really want to engage our youth. I think that sets a trajectory for, their experience in high school. And a lot of growing happens in that first year of middle school, where, they sometimes think they're older than they are. And so I don't know what the barriers are currently, and I know Director Dawson just talked about some of that being capacity, but I don't know what the barriers are, but if we could find ways to engage all of our middle school students, particularly given that some of their friends may be in 7th or 8th grade, and I don't know what the barriers are in terms of our associations in the community or whatnot, but that does seem to be a gap in what I'm seeing so far. The second thing is for me is that I know that this topic is not unique to our district. In other districts, it may be framed differently. I know in some districts, you have parents that are maybe competing for different slots and activities, especially summer activities. And so that's also a barrier in its own way. But I would be interested in the bigger picture. I know we're kind of looking at what we can control here in the district, but when you look at any community, like the hub of the community is either a well-ran community center or it's the schools. And so for me, I would love to look at the bigger picture and just know, like, what are the programming that's being offered for our cities, especially Brooklyn Park, and then the Park District. I know you mentioned that in the slide as potential partners or even competitors when it comes to youth programming, but I think it's hard to know where we should focus our time and attention when we don't have kind of all of the data in front of us, especially from our cities and Three Rivers Park District as well. So I would love more information on that. Hopefully that's easy enough to gather from them, but that would be a topic of interest for me.
Sounds good.
Director Brooks, I apologize, I have to leave for a phone situation. If I'm able to come back.
Thank you. All right.
All right, thank you so much. So we'll go to our next one, a mentorship and retention update. Thank you, Katie. So we'll have the dream team from HR. Brian, can you switch for the one? Do you mind?
Oh, of course, no problem.
Thank you.
Do we need to bring all my stuff?
You can leave.
All right, so our next activity as we're getting set up is around mentorship and retention update. This is Director Dawson's evening, so this is also a subject that we wanted to know about. So we're thrilled to have the dream team here to share that. So Dawson, you want to introduce yourself and your team? Yeah, please.
Good evening, Vice Chair Prince, Dr. Heil, Cabinet, and school board members. I'm here with Lisa Bostic, Personnel Director in HR, and also Milsea Anderson, who is our Recruitment and Retention Coordinator. And tonight, we will be sharing some information about our mentorship programs and also some updates on our retention efforts. So I will hand it over to Lisa first to start us off.
Right, so for today's presentation outcomes, school board members, you will learn about Osseo area schools, mentorship and recruitment programs underway, as well as analyze the results of current strategies, understand key challenges and how we are addressing them. So why does mentorship matter? It matters to our district. By fulfilling our mission, this requires supported staff. And if you don't recall our mission, our mission is to inspire and prepare each and every scholar with the confidence, courage, and competence to achieve their dreams. Mentorship creates a strong foundation that helps new teachers and staff feel welcome, supported, and ready to make that mission a reality. With that, I'll pass it on to Nancy.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you for having me again. This is our mentorship ecosystem. Currently, right now, we have 4 active mentorship programs. The special education teacher mentor is actually the first time. This is the first year we are hosting a SPED mentor. It's a dedicated special education teacher that will be helping to onboard all the first-year special education teachers at Osseo. This is funded by the Minnesota Department of Education through the Teacher Mentorship and Retention Grant. This is intensive, role-specific coaching, and that will help in their classroom. This position is a FTE position, so we recently hired our mentor as a full-time position. The other 3, they'll all go through stipend. So we have the Teacher of Color mentorship program. This is probationary licensed teachers of color. They have the option. That's an optional mentorship, and I'll explain a little bit more why. But this is our 5th year, going towards our 6th year. And the funds, we got a little bit of the funding through the Teacher Mentorship Retention Grant and Achievement Integration, partnering with the Department of Equity, or helping to support our teachers of color to continue this one. This is a very impactful mentorship program. So we just focus on them to remain in the profession, growing them as leaders. And they meet on a monthly basis, but they are available to help their mentees on a daily basis as well. We have now also new, every site, we have positions open. This is a stipend position, but we're going to have the ESP on-site mentorship. Is fully funded by Achievement and Integration Grant. That will be everyday in-building support for ESPs. And the last one we have is our Grow Your Own. Our Grow Your Own, we have 3 different pathways, and any participants, staff or teachers or students, they will be assigned a mentor when they go through the program. And this is just, the focus is make sure that they have clear pathways if they decided to become a licensed teacher. So as we look into the results of our current strategies, we see that a lot of our work has been focused on, forgot my glasses, apologies. It will go through, we focus on filling positions after someone leaves. And right now, that's what I call the reactive backfilling. And we are shifting our mindset to also being proactive by investing right away in our employees the first year. So early on, supporting their growth, building their strong connections. So that's why the mentorship has been a proven strategy for us to support the retention. I will pass to Yvonne. She's going to touch base on the diversity.
Thank you, Nosea. We have, of course, been in front of the board talking about our metrics, the student body that we serve, which is very diverse, and the diversity gap that we have between the student body that we serve, which is over 60% of scholars who are scholars of color, versus our overall workforce and our licensed staff of color. So we do want to address that. We want to focus on intentionally building pathways to recruit, develop, and retain educators who are Black, Indigenous, and people of color, so that we can create a workforce that better reflects and supports the students that we serve. And so to that end, we did want to highlight some of our metrics again. We have, again, had opportunities to talk with the board about our metrics and our goals, but we wanted to take a moment to revisit that. So our overall staff of color is currently 21%, with a 90% retention rate for staff of color. Our licensed staff of color, our current reality is that our licensed staff of color is about 11% of our overall workforce. We have had some steady yet slow progress in recruiting licensed staff of color. Again, our retention is quite high, but the recruitment is a slow and steady pace. That recruitment over the years has been, less than 0.5%. So it's a very slow yet steady recruitment. So our short-term goals we're setting at 1.5% over the next few years. And our expectation is that with the pathways and the strategies that we're creating, we'll be able to start accelerating that pace. And so, of course, we certainly acknowledge that we have quite a bit more work to do. We know that teachers of color in Minnesota represent only 88%, that's a big difference, 8% of the active public school teacher workforce in Minnesota. So we don't have a silver bullet to making those changes immediately. We have to be very intentional. We have to have a number of different strategies to tackle the recruitment. We want to take a thoughtful approach to diversifying our workforce aimed at investing in pathway programs, targeted outreach, and robust support for teachers of color and educators of color in our system. These programs represent an investment in our staff, overall staff of color, our teachers of color, and we expect those investments to pay off by allowing us to accelerate the pace.
Yeah. And as a segue, so we have a little bit of our teacher of color mentorship program. This is equity centered. The focus is those three things on our screen. It's creating safe spaces, building the connection, and also strengthening the belonging. This has been a very successful program and a strategy for supporting and retaining your educations. As I mentioned before, the Teacher of Color Mentorship Program right now, it's optional because it takes place after the regular school hours. So normally they go straight from school, hungry, so you're trying to support them. It's a long day, so we understand that some of them, they have families and they are not able to attend to every single meeting that we host on a monthly basis. Some of the impact that we have for this year, we were able to support 35 teachers of color to the TOC mentorship program. We focus some of our professional learning sessions were focused on connection, belonging, building their skills and confidence. One of the strongest results we have is 100% of the participants, they are eligible to move into continuous contract. 100% move into that, so it was great, everyone in probationary year 3. We only lost 2 of those participants. All the 32 are returning back to this new school year that we are starting in September. So this is a great retention rate. We have very positive feedback. Spoiler alert, we have a few recorded testimonials in a little bit towards the end that I would love to share. Moving towards our special education, why keeping our special education teachers are so important. So we saw, it has been our special education special education students, the body of the students have grown significantly. I believe it's 650 scholars in the past 5 years. So retaining new special education teachers remains a challenge. Out of all the ones that we hired, we were able to retain 65%, which it is a good rate, but it's not enough. So we are highlighting that they need to focus on the stability and support for our students. And this is partnership with the student services. So as I mentioned, we recently hired our new SPAD. So we have here just how we are going to do. This is brand new. It's starting this fall. We are adding the first full-time mentor. So once the special education teacher is hired, we're going to pair with the mentor. Our new mentor is Kate Cuss. She's been with OSSEO for 24 years. She's doing amazing as a SPAD mentor, and she will be the one providing them intensive hands-on coaching right into their classrooms. She will provide them with the tools that they need and the confidence they need to handle the complex and the high-need environments that there are. Most of our classrooms or center bases are very complex and challenging. And the next one that we have, this is also our first year. So this data right here on our screen shows an increase in percentage of resignation involving ESP. So this is why it's so important, the first 3 years, why it matters the most for us. This is a steady increase that highlights every year there is an increase in resignations from ESPs, and the ones who are leaving is within the first 3 years, the majority within the first year. So before we start to losing them and they become disconnected, we would like to provide the support they need, and we have now for the first time on-site guidance for each of them. So this slide shows just how the program will work. We will partner with site leaders and as well as the Department of Equity to identify the experience and the high-performing ESP. So we are talking with every principal, assistant principal. I've been talking with the assistant superintendents, but also with Equity. We want to make sure that they have the training, the resources, and the ongoing support. So we are going to hire the mentors who are going to be on site. You're going to receive a stipend, and they will be matched with all the newly hired ESPs at their sites. So they will provide just a day-to-day guidance, and the goal is to keep them confident they can develop this sense of belonging, because we know some of the reasons that we discussed in the past that they are when they leave, sometimes it could be career opportunity, development, so we're trying to make sure that they feel supported. The last mentorship program that I have is through Grow Your Own. We have the adult and the SPAD pathways we have is adult means general education, so K through 12, and then we have the special education pathways. So the staff who are part of Grow Your Own, working towards the licensure and going back to school, they are assigned an experienced mentor that helps them to navigate through the teacher preparation program as well as licensure. And for the secondary student pathways, those are the students who are interested in becoming a licensed educator once they graduate with OSSEO. If they do participate into the Intro to Education class at Park Center, all our students in high school, they are welcome to take that class. So if they decide to complete that, they are welcome to a paid internship. So it's 8 weeks, and it's a partnership we have with Community Ed. So Camp Rocks and Kids Stop hosting in a rotation. They have 2 mentors. They're hands-on, and they just gain hands-on exposure to the teaching as well as a ESP. Some of them, they come back to us as a ESP and through Grow Your Own going towards the licensure. And my next step is the testimonials. They are 2 minutes each.
And we may need to pause a moment just to make sure the audio
Is-
is, I'm looking at Anthony for additional.
So I can hear.
Hi, my name is Renee Troutman. I'm a 3rd grade teacher in OSSEO. I've been teaching at Cedar Island the past 3 years, and I'll be starting at Weaver Lake this upcoming fall. I knew I wanted to be a part of the GOC program because when I first began my teaching career 3 years ago, I wanted a mentor, and I wanted someone who would give me advice and impart wisdom to me, as well as help me grow professionally and personally, and encourage me in this calling that we both shared. And at all the meetings, everyone there was so friendly and welcoming. They wanted to connect with me, even if they weren't my mentor. And the leaders also focused on helping us understand the probationary period, as well as observation processes and licensing requirements, all of the above. But I specifically felt supported by TOC this past spring when I found out about the budget cuts in my school and I was being let go. And so I reached out to my mentor to ask about next steps, when to apply to other schools within our district, and how to move forward. And he immediately reached out to other leaders in TOC, and from there, they reached out to even more people without me even asking. So some of them reached out to other principals in schools to see who was hiring, where it might be a good fit for me. Others reached out to HR and really advocated for me, and I felt so valued as a person and as an educator because they saw my gifts that I bring to teaching as well as Osseo, and they were fighting to keep me in the district. And HR actually ended up offering me a pocket contract, and I got my top choice of where I could be teaching in Osseo. And so I'm just really excited to continue growing in this amazing community and district. I recommend joining TOC to anyone who's considering it. It's a great community, and I've been truly blessed by it.
Team, I'm smiling because I met her mom at a career fair. Her mom's a teacher at a charter school. And during that time when she was given notice, her mom was like, my daughter works at your school and she got notice, she's not gonna have a job. So I recognized the name, and I'm so glad we were able to keep her. And her sister also teaches in our district as well.
Her sister's the next one.
It's the next one.
Oh. They're not twins, but they look like twins.
So the next one is not the same person.
The first one.
Yeah, just really Kelsey and then later.
I try to get their mom here too.
Hi, my name is Elsie Eames, and I'm a third grade teacher at Garden City Elementary. When applying for districts and looking for districts to teach for, Osseo really stood up to me because of their Teacher of Color mentorship program that told me that Osseo really values teachers of color and already have things in place to support teachers like me. This program has made a large impact on my adjustment into Osseo School District. It has supported me being a teacher and also all the responsibilities that come with teaching, such as relicensure, insurance, report cards, difficult behaviors, and anything else. But it's really grown my confidence as an Osseo educator.
The training of her video is on the list.
A second.
The most rewarding part about the program is having a mentor. My mentor was able to observe and watch me teach multiple times over the past few years and gave very constructive feedback, which is exactly what I needed. They also supported me throughout the school year with difficult student behaviors, making lessons more engaging, and molding the curriculum to really fit my class and my students' needs. I also had the opportunity to observe my mentor teaching and was able to see some of their strategies and their practice in action. This program has made me feel supported and connected me with other members across the district in a variety of roles. I'm very grateful for the relationships I've made because they have really gotten to know me, encouraged me, and are there for me even on the toughest of teaching days. And that reminds me that I'm not doing it alone and I have a huge support system behind me. If you are considering joining Teachers of Color, I would highly recommend because it's a great community and it will really challenge you to be a better teacher.
Just have one more testimonial.
And this one is a mentor.
Hello, my name is Melissa Cazzoni, and I am the ATPPS facilitator here in Osseo Area Schools. The Teacher of Color Mentor Program is a program that is near and dear to my heart. I have been a mentor in the program for the last 5 years, and during this program, I have seen a tremendous transformation of our teachers who have really found the program to be a place of guidance, of mentorship, building confidence, and also leadership skills. I truly believe that representation can be a bridge and often change the trajectory of students' lives, and being able to invest in teachers of color to help diversify our workforce really can have a lasting impact on students. It's supported me in my own personal career, and I have seen that transformation as well with many of our teachers who have now gone on and taken on many leadership roles. I truly believe that if we care about our communities, it's important to invest not only our time and our ears and listening, but also our resources. And so I've seen the impact that this program can make, and I hope to see that impact of this program continue for many years to come.
So with that being said, we're pausing and reflecting on the questions that we have. We have a couple more minutes as well. So you have it in front of you or you have it on the screen.
All right. Board members, questions, comments?
I have a question about 90% retention rate. How does that compare to our overall staff retention rate?
I don't have it open there.
So we will have to,
Oh, we'll have to
check
check
on that.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
So what stood out to me? Awesome presentation. I was excited that you brought testimonials. So yeah, all good stuff. I think one question I had for you all, can you remind me, are we partnering with Black Men Teach, and how is that part of the mentorship program?
Yes, we do have a partnership with Black Men Teach. Right now, we are to renew our contract with them, but we do have one person. The way that I understood when I first started, there was already a contract. They partnered with just some of the schools who have the student bodies who are Black males. So then we do have one, which is in North. No, it's Zanewood, sorry. Zanewood is one of it, and Crestview used to be your other one, but then due to the changes, we currently have one now. The thing is, to continue, we have to apply for new grant, so then we can support the partnership with them.
One of the pathway programs that we're working on, and this was something that we spoke with Dr. Howe in the spring to prepare for, and we're working to build this next school year, is the program called the Teacher Apprenticeship Program, and that is a consortium. One of the entities involved in that consortium is Black Men Teach, so there are a number of school districts that are joining that program. They are grant-funded programs, and it's an apprenticeship model. So again, typically ESPs to a licensed staff model, with the first 2 years being hands-on experience in the classroom, with they call it a journey teacher. The experienced teacher watching, and then that is flipped the last year, where the experienced teacher watches. They're basically modeling, and then they watch the apprentice teach, and then they're there in the classroom as well. So we have to, so we've been in conversations and with the main point person for that, but we've got to build the selection criteria, et cetera, and make sure that we have opportunities to engage our stakeholders in setting that program up.
I'd like to share a good story. This spring, Commissioner Jett had called me, and I was on vacation. He had ran in to 2 of our Black male students. They graduated from Maple Grove Senior in 2025, the twins. They won a big award or something that Maple Grove Senior gives out. The twins did. So we were able to get together, and he brought the gentlemen here, and they were interested in becoming Yes, elementary teachers. So at the point that we started talking about it, and say after the shout out came right over, she was like, oh, I didn't know it was a commissioner, I'm not dressed right. But, came over and talked to them in the interest and started talking about the Grow Your Own program. And they have employees for 6 months, was that it, Nasia?
It's 90 days.
For 90 days, then they can kind of apply for Grow Your Own. So, so then it was like, okay, she's smiling. So there were Kid Stop positions open. So Nasia took them over, showed them how to do the application, and did the application here. And we're proud to say that then they were hired at Kid Stop. So we have both of them, and all they have to be is there for 90 days, and they can apply for Grow Your Own. So it works.
The only other question I have for you, which maybe doesn't need to be answered today, but the special education teachers. So there was a slide that kind of talked about the kind of retention for special education teachers. Are we capturing where they're going? Are they career changing or going to other districts due to competition? Is that something that's part of the larger retention efforts?
We ask, that's part of when they do complete the resignation form. If they, so just so you know, some of those I need to confirm if they all left due to resigning or if they were, some for performance. But we do capture if they would like to share where they're going. Yes, we do have.
Okay.
Reasons.
I will say, so we don't have that data in front of us, but that can be part of the data that we follow up.
Yes.
Sometimes the attrition is, for good reasons. We do, our student services administrators, for instance, who are at the coordinator level at the ESC, they are, have a special education background. So sometimes we are promoting people from within the system, which is a good reason, but obviously then we have to backfills to people to find those positions.
I just want to, I love this. I love how you kind of have it as an ecosystem around mentorship because I can imagine, I'm not in education, but I can imagine how important that is in terms of just feeling kind of like confident and kind of having that support to kind of navigate, especially a district our size. So I couldn't remember, and we were talking about this briefly before, which is why this came to be, but how many, is it, the mentors for the teachers of color, is it the stipend or is there
It's a stipend.
It is a stipend. So how many mentors are there?
So this year we can hire up to 20 mentors and 2 lead mentors.
Okay.
So 22 of them. Last year we had a budget cut through FDE, so we were only able to have 10 mentors, and Achievement Integration Department of Equity help us to combine budgets and help to hire more.
Is it a one-to-one mentorship or?
Ideally, yes.
Okay.
And I love this special ed teacher mentor. I think that's so important to have. The ESP, Grow Your Own, and I just think it's all, that's just the direct, that's just, I just think it's so foundational, and I appreciate like what you said. And there's not a silver bullet, with all of this, and so I know you guys put so much work into this, and I really, really appreciate it. I am curious, Tom, thanks for bringing that with Black Men Teach. Like, what are the? I'm just curious of what are the requirements to partner with them?
Yeah. So that, and I might be speaking. I don't know the full details. They actually didn't charge us. The superintendent prior to Dr. Hai was the one who signed that contract. They said that within the 2 schools, it would turn into 20% of the Black Men, to bring 20% of Black Men Teach. Because he wasn't able to achieve the goal, we ended up not paying them. I think we do have to pay a fee. The staff goes through school. Once they complete, they're placed in our, in our classrooms as a licensed staff. We do have, I've been in touch with them. One of their partners is actually the one who are introducing the apprenticeship program as well. So that's how we connected all the dots. And we do have one of our Grow Your Own, the adult, which is the general education, is focused for BIPOC staff. So we have about 6 of our staffs of color, male, who are going through Grow Your Own back into school. Here, hopefully soon they're going to be graduating.
I cannot add on to that as well. Initially, prior to the superintendent, Dr. Heil coming on, at that time, that contract, there was a financial commitment as well to onboard the black male teachers. In addition to that, there are criteria that Black Men Teach does have, where for us to participate is I believe 50% or a certain percentage of the students have to be black males for us to work with Black Men Teach. So that's why we're able to identify Zanewood and Crestview as part of the criteria.
That's great. Thank you for
Yeah, thank you. This is great. And thank you for the glossary of acronyms.
Yes.
Always helpful.
There's a lot of acronyms with the grants.
There's a test at the end.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
I love the testimonial.
We always want those.
So we'll send it to us.
Yeah.
Alrighty, we'll switch out. This one is on TechView. We've had a couple more members of Learning and Achievement. Thank you for coming, in particular on such short notice. So before we get started, I'm going to let you all introduce yourself, but I do want to just start with some just basic information. So the purpose of this presentation this evening and the discussion this evening is just a follow-up from all of the discussions that we started having in the spring. So just a quick reminder that on Cinco de Mayo, Assembly 5th, we had original technology presentation, and then we did meet with our parent group in June. And then in July, we did start a work group, start working on what are some of the short-term, what are some of the long-term things that we can do, and then we're here today. So we also have constantly taken in reading our own articles and reading information, also thanking our parents for offering books and things for us to be able to read as well. So I just want to put out how important this partnership is. I also want to just share today that the information today is just a start of what we need to do. And the reason why we're saying it's a start is because at the time that we entered into the summer, our staff wasn't here, our teachers weren't here. So one of the things we do have in our series schools, all voices valued and heard, that we need to make sure we get more teacher voice in, staff voice in, student voice in, gathering that data and getting additional stakeholder voice in if we need. So one of the things that when we did meet with the parents in June, they had mentioned, like, do we have to wait till the end of the year, or can we have some information? Can we do something to start off the year? So that was one of our main goals when we come in, and the reason why you see a short term and the reason why you see a long term, that we went through to create that short term of what can we create without teachers' input as much and other people's input, so that's why you see the difference. But I just want to let everyone know here it's our start and we're nowhere near finished, and I'll let the team introduce.
Good evening. Thank you, Dr. Heil. Good evening, Chair Prince. Well, she's stepped away. Vice Chair Brooks, members of the board, cabinet, and community members. Thank you for the opportunity to bring this work forward. What you will see this evening reflects a cross-departmental partnership between information technology and learning and achievement, as we work together to answer a central question: how do we ensure responsible use of technology for learning? Our short-term recommendations and the proposed long-term guidance are being developed with both sides of the equation in mind: our network and information technology expertise, as well as our high-quality core instruction framework and our understanding of what makes learning meaningful and effective. We are genuinely excited about the opportunity this work creates to partner across departments and ultimately with our broader stakeholder community. The long-term guidance will be shaped by instructional purpose with technical safeguards and mindful of the lived experiences of the people closest to the work, especially our students and educators. As we move forward with an instructional technology use steering committee, stakeholder feedback, and continued study, our goal is to develop clear, thoughtful guidance that helps ensure technology is used intentionally to enhance learning while preserving the human connection and high-quality instruction at the center of our work. Joining me this evening is our Director of Learning Achievement, Dr. Jill Kine. I don't know if you want to introduce the rest of your...
And joining me tonight is our Assistant Director of Secondary Education, Rachel Schmidt, and Digital Learning Specialist for High School, Becky Fritz.
Our presentation outcomes tonight, we want you as board members in the community to learn about our key recommendations for responsible use of technology for the 26-27 school year, really our short-term recommendations that we're going to start the school year with, and then learn about our high-quality core instructional framework and how technology plays into that space as we talk about instruction and pedagogy. And of course, we're going to provide a couple opportunities for processing and feedback with you as a board. This timeline that you see here provides a high-level overview of the work that we started since last spring, and Dr. Heil kind of alluded to. And as we get further into the presentation, we're going to provide a more detailed timeline around that long-term study and recommendation that's coming. But essentially in the spring, we started with initial information gathering. So we had our board work session, as Dr. Heil mentioned. We've had district tech advisory committees, which several of our parents have been engaged with as well, of providing information and input to us. We've had parent meetings. We had a district listening session in the spring that focused on this topic around screen time and ed tech. And as Dr. Heil mentioned, we've been kind of reviewing through a variety of literature pieces, both through our research and from the parent groups that have shared with us as well. During the summer, we had an amazing core team of leaders, represented of elementary through high school, but again, just core group of leaders, to really start processing through that information and develop some short-term recommendations that we're going to discuss here further, and then develop kind of the guiding change process that will guide our long-term recommendations and put us in a position to really bring in teacher voice, student voice, and greater community voice as we look at how we want to move our organization forward around technology. In the fall, what you're going to see, and we're going to discuss here real shortly, is our short-term recommendations. Those are actions that we can implement for the start of the school year. And then that will set the stage for our long-term study of recommendations, where we're bringing an instructional technology steering committee together who will study current practices in alignment with high-quality core instruction. So if you see HQCI, that stands for high-quality core instruction, and the role of technology within that space, as well as developed updated technology guidance.
I think the only thing I would add to that is that really centering on the high-quality core instruction and technology as a way to support and enhance that, not as a way to replace that. I mean, it's really about the teacher in the classroom as the instructor.
This is our guiding focus question, which is overarching as we started to dig into this work around short-term and long-term practices. And it's the summary of this question is, how do we ensure responsible use of technology for learning? And when we think about responsible use, this is really for us defined by a commitment to the balance of evidence-based practice and human development. This question, while simple in reading it, is very nuanced. At the core, this is about instructional practice and pedagogy, and the question is about how we appropriately align resources to support and enhance that. Technology is only highlighted because that is the resource under specific review and alignment to our instructional practice. As we start to dive into our short and long-term recommendations, I want to reemphasize that this is a partnership between learning and achievement and technology. Learning and achievement is leading the work around the instructional practice in alignment with high-quality core instruction. Technology is leading technical configuration of technology resources aligned and in support of instructional outcomes. The short-term recommendations for consideration is the start. It's to start a tighter alignment to our desired instructional practices, limit distractions from learning, and be mindful of the impact for the start of the school year. These recommendations are being considered, recognizing we need more teacher, student, and family voices as part of a larger recommendations in order to understand impact and provide staff time for any possible transitions. This is where our long-term planning process will come into play. As the summer work team came together, there were kind of 3 core areas that we focused on kind of processing through information. One of the original pieces of information we reviewed is around the desired state of the digital learning for all in 2017. So we've had this arc around digital learning evolution. 2013, we launched our digital learning for all plan with one-to-one technologies. In 2017, we had a significant reset of what that meant in our district. And it really framed around these 3 core items: purposeful technology use that enhances learning, consistent high-quality learning experiences across classrooms, and educators being confident in making intentional instructional decisions. And of course, since 2017, a lot has changed. So we spent some time processing through our current reality. So 2020, we had the pandemic that had a significant shift in how we engage with technology and learning and practices. We have this rapidly evolving digital and AI landscape, in particular since 2020. We have growing opportunities for choices for technology use, both within schools and out of schools, that are impacting the lives of all of us. We've got diverse stakeholder perspectives on technology and screen time, and we've got variations in implementation as our practices around technology in schools continues to mature. And the last component of information that we reviewed in working towards our short-term and designing the long-term process was really around that parent feedback. Now, this is not comprehensive of everything that we've heard from families and gathered through stakeholders, but there are 4 core themes that have emerged consistently through our various stakeholder groups. To summarize, it's really around the minimization of distractions for learning, the limit of social media, YouTube, and entertainment that doesn't necessarily have that connected instructional value and potential for negative impacts. And really this balance around non-tech options with technology in the learning space. What does balance look like and mean in today's learning experience? As well as training and professional development for educators. So if we really want to ensure where and when technology is used appropriately, that our educators are supported with effective training and resources to ensure that they can be successful in their space.
So I will just reiterate that these short-term recommendations were done by leaders without teacher input. And so it's a start, and it is the starting point for the steering committee that Anthony and I will talk more about. The very first one is turning off K-5 students' ability to create Google Sites. What I learned is that you can create a Google site, and it's a workaround for embedding games that may be otherwise blocked. And so by turning the students' ability to create these off, they won't be able to do that on district devices. The short-term recommendation, again, is only for elementary, because what we know is that some secondary teachers have students create Google Sites for portfolios or to other ways to demonstrate their learning. So in thinking about the steering committee, one of the early outcomes could be investigating to the extent that Google Sites are being used at secondary, and then making recommendations to potentially turn those off even next year during the school year. But again, bringing teachers together and finding out what has actually happened is really a critical step in partnership. Additionally, at K-5, turning off all AI, including Gemini, which is our Google tool, that will be blocked for K-5. Additionally, YouTube will be blocked K-5, except for teachers will have access to it to broadcast videos in their classrooms, and then on asynchronous or e-learning days, they can embed educational approved clips into Seesaw. Secondary students' access, again, will be part of that larger conversation, because we also have teachers who are making videos to support student learning alongside of their instruction. So maybe I didn't understand a concept, here's a video that a student can use at home to reinforce that. So understanding how those videos can be housed and students can access those videos seamlessly is something important for the steering committee to do.
Lastly, at the K-5 level, we want to reiterate that we've had a lot of practices in place already, and some things will continue to clearly continue. And one of those is all of our student devices at the elementary level will continue to be cart-based, and stay at school. They will only go home under limited circumstances such as e-learning days, asynchronous days, or very intentionally designed learning activities where they may need to go home. So that practice will be continuing at the K-5 level.
And then at middle school, looking at restricting AI to only Gemini Notebook LM. And so in Gemini Notebook LM, it differentiates itself from other AIs is that it doesn't search the wider web. Students have to plug in a resource in order for it to generate something. So I can plug in 5 resources that say, explain to me, my daughter's learning about the Constitution, the US Constitution, here are 5 resources, and it can create a video or other things, but I have to give them the resources. It won't search the internet for the resource. And again, that is AI, something else that we need to continue to study with that larger group to find out what is the implications of it are for students at high school. In particular, our PSEO students who use district devices to complete coursework that may require access to AI.
And I was going to jump in with middle school as well, is to, we even had suggestions, and one of the questions were, do middle schoolers need to have their Chromebooks with them all during the day? So that's something we're going to be immediately looking at. I know we have K-12 as well. It's kind of easy for us to do K-5 and figure out K-5 quickly. So for grades, middle school, I just want to say we may not be by June of something that we made that decision. It can be as quick as coming September, October. We just need input from our middle school teachers of how they're using it. So I just want to put that in the book. So.
Now, when we think about K-12 digital resources as a whole, we've got a lot we still need to unpack with a lot of stakeholders, but there are a few things that we can get started with right away for the fall. And one of them is blocking the remaining social media sites on our K-12 district devices. So most social media has been blocked from student issued devices, but we've had a historical practice with X and Instagram being open because of athletics and student activities. It used to be a primary method that those groups would communicate back with students. But again, as our technology systems have evolved, our athletics and activities have different modalities that they communicate with students within clubs and activities that do not involve social media. They still market and advertise in social media, but it's not a communication platform for those student groups. The other one is around Tier 3 applications. We've got a lot to unpack in this space and what that means with classroom instruction and design. So one of the things we wanted to be very cognizant of is how do we ensure that we can grapple and get a handle on what's happening in that Tier 3 application space without also causing significant disruption for the start of the school year. So we're putting in a moratorium on any new Tier 3 applications. That's going to give us the time as we dig into the long-term study to get a good handle of what is happening in that space and process through what additional recommendations or practices we need to put in place in alignment with what aligns best with curriculum instruction and our pedagogical practices.
Could you clarify what a Tier 3 tool is?
Yes, so we have tools that are classified in 3 tiers. So a Tier 1 application is the district-provided curricular resource. So we adopt a curriculum resource in CTE. This is the 3D printer software that supports the curriculum and the application from a district level with what we're doing in that curricular space. Google Apps, our Windows email platform, those are Tier 1 applications that support core universal instruction operations of our system. Tier 2 applications are department or site specific, so a school site who's working on a particular intervention with students. IXL is a common Tier 2 application the school site might purchase IXL as part of a resource or tool for the school site to use. Tier 3 is everything else. So these are the tools that usually are unique to different classrooms. Teachers will bring them in as they're looking at what tools might enhance what they're doing within that learning space. Prodigy and Epic are probably the 2 we've heard the most that teachers use. Those are Tier 3 applications. So they go through, they're not through the normal process of how we identify and ensure tight curricular alignment with Tier 1 and Tier 2 applications.
Thank you.
And then lastly, as we talk about parent and staff resources, in particular, we've heard a lot of requests from parents to have greater ability to control student devices when they go home. So Lightspeed is our filtering tool that we use in our district, and actually is a international industry standard within the filtering space, both in private and public sector. And it's also got a large component within the K-12 space to support what happens in K-12 schools. In January, they released a new tool set that allows for a parent, it's called a parent portal, but really a parent login so that they can go in and outside of school hours provide additional controls on those devices. So we'll be launching this fall with all parents. They can go in, they can actually turn off the internet on that device. They can put in custom schedules of when the internet is on or off that device while they're outside of school, as well as add in additional sites that they may want blocked. Again, our district devices continue to be filtered regardless of where they are. This is an additional layer that parents will have to provide some more controls while they're at home with those devices in that space, in addition to what the school already does within those devices.
I'm thinking about supporting teachers in this. In 14 days, when we welcome teachers back, we'll be launching some virtual professional learning on the recommendations here, our drafted AI guidance, as well as reminders of our current guidance on the use of technology in classes, which includes not using it as a reward or during intervention time. So that will be some reinforcement training that we'll be doing starting in 13 days.
So now we want to kind of pause and give you some time to process on these short-term recommendations. Again, we are going to, next step, talk into kind of some of that long-term recommendation process. We wanted to be very intentional on what we could bring in for the start of the school year without causing significant disruption to teaching and learning practices, while we can bring in greater stakeholder voice to design those long-term recommendations and make sure that we've got the runways needed for any significant changes that may come. So the two guiding questions that we have is, again, what questions might you have about these recommendations? And we've asked some great ones already. And what other questions should we monitor as these recommendations are implemented?
I right off the bat just want to thank you all for the presentation and all the work that's gone into this so far, given how important of a topic this is to the board and the community, and also listening. The Lightspeed parent portal. We've been talking about that or around that for quite a while. So, my kids are getting old now, but kind of put a smile on my face. So thank you for all of the work. And I do have a ton of questions, but I'll start with the rest of the board.
I have a question about that. Thomas, what you said, how will the Lightspeed parent portal, how will that be communicated to parents? Is it ease of use about that, and when will parents know about that?
So I will talk about ease of use, and I'm actually looking over at Ryan because Ryan was our fake parent to go through the process. The tool is very easy to use. It is very tight. It's assigned to the parent with education rights, so or parents. You might have multiple parents or guardians with education rights, and it's associated with their email on record. So you can't have other strange individuals get into that space. Once they get in, it's a pretty user-friendly dashboard, and you can just quick toggle switches on and off inside that platform. We are in the process of working on documentation and videos for parents and communication for parents, targeting to try and get all of that packaged by the end of next week so we can work on communication delivery plan for that week before school gets out. So the team is rapidly building those pieces out, so we don't have the full details on that, but it is in the works.
Efforts to make it very user-friendly.
Yes.
That's good.
Yeah.
And then a lot of questions, about YouTube, and from the parent survey, that was a top concern. So for grades 6 through 12, is there going to be any limit, or how are you help us understand kind of the clarifying around that?
think that is part of bringing that larger stakeholder team together to figure out what is being used, what's currently being done, and how can we still have teachers. So I've created a ton of videos for staff that are housed on YouTube because that's where it's stored. So how can we still have videos like that, but maybe not on YouTube? So where can we store them? What's the protocol? What's the process? And how will we teach teachers how to do that? So I think it's part of that working group that we're going to bring together to make that recommendation. And again, as I think about, there's Google Sites and then there's YouTube. I think those are the two top priorities that we'll start the year off with.
And then once again, Director Mitchell, we'll be looking through 6 through 12 with emphasis on speedier answer for 6 through 8.
Mm-hmm.
That's all.
Yeah, and there's some technical configurations we've got to process through on that YouTube side. Just pulling videos out and storing them somewhere else. We've got individual teachers with terabytes worth of video content that they've created. So that's not something we can necessarily take and pull and stick on a server because of the cost implications with that and even space. So those are part of the things we need to unpack with teachers and then look at from a technical perspective of how do we achieve this in a way that supports the system.
And can you give us some kind of a timeline just to ensure, parents that are, taking time to address these concerns, that the 6 through 12, that would be addressed and reevaluated, so we're not just having, so much unsupervised?
So I think there's a couple of pieces. One is that, getting school started and then bringing that group together, which I can envision coming together in the middle of September and coming up with those short-term, what do we need to have answered? And I know there's a plan to bring this group back in February, but also are there things we can do in collaboration with teachers in the meantime? And so I don't have a definitive date, but we're looking to see what else is possible in the meantime, like between now and January.
But at this point, our goal is to come back with recommendations to the board early February.
Yep.
Did you say, I must have missed it in the beginning, did you say teachers were engaged in this or not?
No.
We had staff.
We had staff,
that
yeah.
serves in.
So how do we know this isn't going to impact them?
So one of our digital learning specialists who works in elementary, she is the primary contact for teachers when they want to do a project around using a Google site. And there were no teachers who were using Google Sites based off of her collaboration with them.
K-5.
K-5.
Yeah.
What I would say is,
I just get I get a little, I'm not saying I disagree, I'm just saying whoa.
Yeah.
And we also,
and it's so close to the start of school, I think about, is this gonna impact our students who are relying on technology, or any of this with IEPs, 504s, to behavior management, I'm like, when I hear that teachers haven't been engaged, I get a little.
So I think we sort of separated out assistive technology from regular technology use because those may be requirements of an IEP or a 504. So that is not included in these short-term recommendations. So if I have in my IEP that I can use Google to do XYZ, that will remain. We're not going to take away a student's legal
Do you
rights.
feel like this is going to be a shock to the teacher?
I don't.
Or
we did go to union.
Yeah.
So we did check with union on the short term before that.
Okay.
And of course, we're going to listen to
Yeah.
it. They're not going to alter it to do whatever. So.
And then I think my thing is I think that there's a lot of interest in this at board level for sure. I still think that there's 24 hours in a day, and students are with us for 7 hours, right? And then what? And I feel like the issue more is their personal devices too, and having parents having some education around. I'm sure some parents. I literally just learned how to control some things on my own kids' stuff. I don't know. I have no idea. And I was except when I look at their screen time, and I'm like, oh my god, But I do think there is this I always have a little kind of not red flag, but just kind of I'm just aware of there's so much on our schools, and sometimes I think what problem are we trying to solve? Mm-hmm. And so I appreciate this, and I think it's kind of a bigger problem, just screen time in general. And I do think there should be there's opportunities for continuity around offering a little bit more parent education around what are some of these recommendations, and how do you kind of support that healthy use of technology and screen time? Because I don't think sure, the school can do one thing, but it's, I don't know, you know what I mean? There's still this like disconnect.
Yes.
I think it's still up for a lot of families. Like I see some of the parents here from the group, and you're very engaged. You know, you do research, and then not all the parents do. You know, so I think it's a huge. I think it's a disparity in our communities, and I think it's something that the onus is not just on the education system.
I agree, and we can also include it. At some point, we'll talk about Caregivers Academy too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Kelsey, to your question, we wrestled with that question around teacher impact at the beginning of the year, because we did not want to set up that teachers are coming back workshop week with 5 days and now they have to retool complete lesson plans. So, while that doesn't mean that these short-term recommendations aren't going to have an impact on some staff, we're confident in being able to work with staff around these short-term recommendations to make them work successfully to start the school year.
And our digital learning specialists have been involved in this work. They were part of the summer team, so they'll be the ones who are out there supporting teachers who may need access to something that is part of the guidance and can help with a new strategy.
Okay, one more wondering, and you may not have answered this now, but I'm curious of like when somebody goes to school to become a teacher.
Yeah.
Like, what are they teaching now? Like, are they teaching is it like how to teach in a digital world, or is it like let's go back to the teaching writing cursive and books? Like, what are they even teaching now?
It depends on the program, right? So I was with principals and teachers today and talked about how teacher prep programs are really about lesson planning still, whether it's lesson planning in the digital world, lesson planning on paper. They haven't yet moved to even the science of reading, right? So how do we, when we bring in new teachers, so New Teacher Academy was today, how do we talk about that and help them understand what it's like in ASIO? And so I think, and to Anthony's point, it depends on where you go to college.
And I think there's sometimes just this a little bit of an assumption as a younger teacher comes out of college because they've been in the technology experience world, that will automatically translate into you can use that in the classroom. Well, there needs to be some intentional training and professional development on what that actually looks like, because your normal schoolwork technology use is not the same as how you would actually do something in the classroom for instruction.
Thank you.
I think the couple questions I had were just about the AI guidance at the high school level. I noticed that that's not there. And I appreciate the slow and steady pace and thinking that this is a big ship to turn back as far as what came out of COVID. It totally changed the pendulum. But the AI is probably my biggest concern, both as somebody who works in a private sector and understands that we're seeing the impact of students coming out and relying on AI and what that's done to their work product. So it's not a very big question, or it's a broad question. There's no pointed answer I'm really looking for, but I think the AI use at the high school is still concerning. And then the question around, and it's more like I understand we have some basis for how it's recommended to be used. Have we done an audit on how it's actually, like tech in general, not AI, an audit on how it's being used? Because there's the consistency is not there. And I think that's what I'm hoping we can eliminate spots where there's inconsistencies, and so that each student gets the same offering and the same rich education that we are required to provide. So I think that's my major thought in terms of how we go forward, and then just around durations, timelines for, like Dr. Heil already touched on, timeline for what's next, because it feels urgent as a parent, just knowing our kids are going to go back to this soon. So I think those are just the major takeaways from me, but I appreciate you guys taking the time to really dig into this, because I know it's a big ask.
And your question and comment is exactly what's part of the long-term study as well, to continue to unpack what the current reality is as we kind of reset what is the long-term guidance that needs to happen both on an AI instructional and technology configuration side.
My last question was actually, why didn't we do more, kind of in the short term? But then I also rephrased it to be, is this what was able to be implemented? And so I appreciate the thoughtfulness behind it, and that there's, I know you guys put so much effort into this, so I appreciate that.
So one of the things that you all didn't include in this presentation that you often do is data, especially around engagement. And I was curious if you know, even off the top of your head, how many parents were involved in this process. So you mentioned DTAC, community conversations, community survey, parent meetings. I'm trying to get a gauge on how many parents have already been involved in this conversation, and how much broader it needs to be.
That's a great question. DTAC, I'm looking at all the parents that are sitting in here. At some point or another, they were all at DTAC. So we've had a core engagement with that. When we think about surveys, Morris Lemon survey had 2 questions around technology. So that had kind of broad community outreach. The community stakeholder survey, the parent stakeholder survey had questions specific to technology on that, which had a broader kind of outreach out there. And then, of course, just participation in that community conversation that we had this spring. But I do think there's opportunity for greater community engagement to ensure that we've got wide representation across the system.
Yeah, we haven't talked to Kay yet, but there'll definitely be larger stakeholder voice, because we're very good at that now, so, so I think we need to have it out there, and even, through social media, so we're trying to get this information, that input, because I know we need more stakeholder voice, just like we need you all's voice in the rules.
I do, as we kind of think about that, and this might be newer for us, but I feel like the lens of a parent is very different than the lens of an employer. And one of my biggest concerns with all of this, and I appreciated you all moving slowly, particularly with our high school students, but I think one of my biggest concerns is things are changing so rapidly that I don't want to pull back too much, and our students aren't prepared for the workplace that is heavily reliant on AI already. So that's my concern with all of this, just kind of balancing this going forward. And I would love to have some sort of data point as to what our employers are expecting from, their future employees. So yeah, that's just kind of one thought from me. Lastly, DTAC, we don't hear a lot about them. Can you give a breakdown of like who's involved?
Yeah, I'm actually, Ryan, thanks for being in the audience. I'm going to pick on him for a bit because with the restructuring over the last 2 years, Ryan has taken over the leadership of the District Tech Advisory Committee, but it is a community-based committee made up of students, staff, and parents, community members that we meet 4 times a year and kind of market and advertise. Ryan, got anything?
Each year, I've been a part of it, which makes it like been there for 20 years, my third. We kind of do a thematic approach, and so the first year we looked at different structures around equity and technology. This last year, we looked at, the theme was the Driving K-12 Innovation Framework that's done nationally. We took that at a more local level, and then Anthony and Gerald and I are reviewing theme concepts for this next year. We're probably right now, we're leaning towards focusing on our 3-year operational planning and how we can gain input and feedback around some key areas. But we usually bring a topic for discussion and we pair that with an update from the district. For example, October is Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and so Gerald and Anthony have presented information around what we do with cybersecurity and pair that with an input session. And we'll do that 4 times throughout the cadence. So this last year we do have a report, a document report that we drafted as a committee, and the committee had that, the DTAC committee had a final kind of review and input, and screen time and potential use of technology as part of that conversation.
Thank you.
Yes, Bill.
I mean, I kind of along those lines, thank you, what Thomas asked about like engagement. I mean, I do appreciate the intentionality and kind of the easing into this because I just don't think we know the impact.
Correct.
And I think especially for families of color.
Mhm.
And I am like where we saw in COVID already like this disproportionality there, and now we like switch gears again. And I'm just like, I'm hyper focused on that piece in our district as diverse and as big as ours, and I do not want people getting left behind. And it is, we have to have more voices in this conversation. We don't know the impacts of it, and we just do not, you know. And I think probably universally there's consensus of like, yes, like screen time, technology, we gotta like slow pump the brakes. But like, what does that look like? And I just don't want to add more barriers to people. or for families. I just am like, I don't know. Like, thank you for this piece. I'll say that. Thank you.
We can even do, we can even do at conferences, just having QR codes next to the teacher and we can get. So we're actually getting information from individual schools as well, so from a diverse perspective.
Yeah, because when I think about it, when, you know, I remember some kind of research and stuff that was talking about, you know, the kids that are actually doing better with tech are the ones that have their personal device at home that they see as like a toy that they're able to play with and do some of that kind of stuff rather than the thing I submit my homework on. So, yeah, I just kind of want to echo what's been said. I like the measured approach because I don't want to swing too far to the right and we're just, you know, kneecapping our kids and from a tech perspective. So.
All right.
Continuing on.
Do you want
Oh,
us
there's
to
more.
go through the do you want us to go through the framework or we can go right to the long term?
Let's skip to the long term.
Go to the long
We're already
term.
over.
Okay. So, you know, as we think about the long-term guidance, again, we've talked a lot about this, but we want to ensure that we have a lot of stakeholder input from across the system between staff, students, and families. And again, while our question focuses on technology as a resource being reviewed, the core of our conversations are on practice and pedagogy with high-quality core instruction. As we dig deeper into our work around this, the continued partnership with LNA and the instructional technology team around aligning resources to practice will continue in ways that best support and amplify our work moving forward. So this is a little bit of a zoom in of some of that guidance, and what we wanted to be nuanced with is, as we're digging into this, there might be recommendations that can come in prior to the start of next school year. But it's really a year-long study that has recommendations that will come into play by the start of next school year, if not sooner, based on what we learn in the conversations.
Or will be supported by data, so go ahead.
Yes.
Okay.
So we've already kind of talked about what has occurred over the summer. In the fall, we'll be forming the Instructional Technology Steering Committee. That'll be a core team that will be digging into this work. They will be engaging with the stakeholders, stakeholder data, getting that feedback in to design and build out draft recommendations, as well as build out the guidance around our work with technology and instruction moving forward.
And including student voice.
Yes. In the winter, we're going to bring forward another an update on our recommendation at the February work session with kind of finalized draft guidance. So while some of these things might not come into play until the 27-28 school year, we want to be able to have kind of recommendations ready to go in draft form for you all to see in that winter timeframe, because then it also means we need to have time to prepare teachers, prepare technical configurations, and make any adjustments that need to occur. So the course of the spring of next school year, we will finalize that guidance and recommendations. And then over the summer, we'll continue to work through the implementation and prepare for possible training and professional development that needs to happen in the system in preparation for the fall. The slides that we're going to kind of jump through quickly are really the high quality core instructional. It's the framework. So this is, Jill can speak best to this, but this is the last 3 years what teachers have been framing instructional practice around. I don't know if you want to give like a 1,000-foot summary.
1,000-foot summary is there are 4 components, and each component we want to see technology enhance that component, not replace a human in that component. And so you'll see on the slides divided into pedagogical approaches and then the technical safeguards that support that pedagogical approach. And again, the technical safeguards are just the short-term recommendations because we wanted to make sure that we had a wide range of stakeholders to talk about those implications. The big theme of these slides is really about balance, intentionality, and alignment, and making sure that we have really clear desired results for those long-term recommendations, and that there's the professional learning to support teachers when these results come out, because we can have lots of great recommendations, but it's the learning for teachers and the ongoing coaching through our digital learning specialists and our instructional coaches and other staff.
And so as Dr. Kine goes into the desired results, this is really around this isn't the actions that are going to happen, but the framing of the thinking as we engage in the work to develop the next layer of recommendations.
Yeah, I like to think of them as the bumpers that you put up in a bowling alley when you are going bowling for the first time with little kids. These are the guardrails that are going to define the work of this long-term team. And they're, again, balance, intentionality, and alignment, that we have clear expectations for technology use. We know the when, the where, the why, and the how for families, students, and our educators. That we have consistent, high-quality learning experiences, that it's intentional, regardless of school, grade, or classroom. And then balanced and intentional learning, that technology is adding value to our students' experience in Osseo area schools while maintaining appropriate opportunities for the hands-on, the face-to-face, and the non-digital activities. The other 2 desired results include what Director Brooks was speaking to, that ensuring that our students are future-ready graduates, that they have the skills for success in college, career, life, and collaboration, communication, creativity, and critical thinking. And lastly, the consistency, aligned, sustainable systems of support. How we can't put something in place if we can't support it ongoing with professional learning, resources, and other support that is needed.
So we do have another moment for pause and process, but I'm going to jump to just these next steps, and then if there are any final questions, you can fire them away. But just to kind of reiterate, we're going to be working on forming that technology use steering committee, which again is going to be a core team. It's going to be a smaller team to dig into the work and draft the stuff, the guidance on the recommendations, but do that in partnership with stakeholder groups and information as they gather that and bring that in. Which leads into that gathering stakeholder feedback, preparing our long-term guidance, and then again present to the school board and at the February work session. All right. Thank you there.
And so just real quick on the one-year calendar, I'll put it in my superintendent update review. We do have, of course, room to add more topics. Director Brooks will be a topic and introducing activities again, and more stuff on that. We added activity fees there on there. Update on healthcare clinic is on there. So please share the information that you have to do on the calendar.
And just so the full board knows, one of the requests that I had was that we move the DPAC presentation to a work session, so that it creates more opportunity for an actual conversation with them, versus kind of the awkward formal presentation at this meeting.
Yeah.
So hopefully you all are supportive of that, but that was my request to Dr.
I wrote it down.
Something's happening.
All right. So we are not too far over. Thank you, staff. Presentations today were awesome. Meeting is adjourned at 8:23.
We'll clean up real quick on leave and read the statement. We're recording.
All right, at this time, the board will take a brief recess and then reconvene in the forum room for a closed session. The board will convene a closed session pursuant to Minnesota Statute 13D.05, Subdivision 3A, to evaluate the performance of the superintendent. The first portion of the closed session that was noticed for labor negotiations with custodians, school nutrition, ESPs, OAPs, nurses, and Kid Stop instructors has been canceled and will be rescheduled for next Tuesday, August 25th.
Right, Kevin, we need to clean up quick.